Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to askNK. Today I'm excited to show you guys a beautiful tool that will change the way you actually present your geometry nodes from now on. This is a Cupid kind of tool that makes Unreal Engine fall in love with Blender and make Blender users want to kiss Unreal Engine. So if you're into game development and you're into Unreal Engine and you've been thinking about how you can move your geometry node from Blender over to Unreal Engine, now this tool is the tool that you've been waiting for, and it is called AlterMesh. So AlterMesh is actually that bridge. It is more like the Houdini engine bridge for Blender. So what it does is it helps you move your geometry nodes, procedural stuff from Blender over to Unreal Engine and get the most out of it. So for those who like to get this, you can go over to altermesh.com. This was just announced a couple of days back and the beta was just announced few hours ago, and you can go in and check it out. So there is actually a pricing that deals with the personal and the commercial one. But if you want to get it for free, you can simply go ahead and get it for free, or you can pay to use this for commercial projects. And once you want to get this, if you click on this link, what it will do is to bring you over to the Gumroad where you can actually purchase it. And of course, you would notice I purchased it already, been trying to play with it, extremely interesting stuff to play with. If you go over to the view content, you would notice that it has two project files. The very first one is for Unreal Engine 4.26, and then the second one is for Unreal Engine 4.27. So since we're working with Unreal Engine 4.26, all we need to do is just hit the download button and download it. So once you download this, what you would get is a simple zip file. You can unzip that, and if you unzip it, you would get a project file that you can open. This is the AlterMesh example project file, which means that you definitely need to open this. All right, you need to open it and follow up with the tutorial. There's a very tiny tutorial that guides you, but of course you have askNK here, so I'm just going to go ahead and talk you through this. So how this one works is extremely simple. Once you fire it open, you'll notice I have an example folder. There's a beautiful splash screen, there's a map, then there is a demo room that has a tutorial. So you can double click on this tutorial and it tells you what this part is, what this part is. You know, it just simply gets you up to speed with what Unreal Engine is. And then it also tells you that if you're working with this add-on, if you like to work with this add-on or this plugin, what you need to do is you need to go over to edit, go over to the project setting, scroll all the way down, go over to plugins, go over to where you have the AlterMesh, and then specify where your Blender executable file is. It is very important that you specify this. Now, once that is ready, the next thing which you can do is just drag in as much geometry node files that you've made in Blender and bring them right here. That is basically how easy it is for you to now get your geometry nodes in Blender. So there's an example here that deals with a city generator. So let's go ahead and check it out. So once you have your geometry file in here, you can notice that all your parameters exist right here. So if you go over to the size section, you can play with the size and you can see we have crazy things going on here. It is interesting. So we can also choose to do something like so. And in this way, you are creating stuff. So if you've been thinking about working with your geometry nodes in Unreal Engine, I guess this is a good time to actually get on with it. So there's a couple of questions you guys might have. How do you bring in your own files in? And what if you have your own Unreal Engine project and you like to incorporate this? Because what we have here is running on a plugin that seems to be running only on this particular project, and we're going to talk about all of that. So if you do have some projects and you would like to bring them in, what you can do is very simple. So let's just go ahead and look at this scene one more time, and let's drag in an example file. So I do have a couple of tests that I've done before, so I'm just gonna go over here and keep this right there, click, drag in one of these geometry nodes, and if I click and drag, we can have it. So you notice it cooks, and then we have it right here, and I can just get that right over there. And let's move this all the way to this point, and from here, actually let's raise this all the way up. It doesn't really matter. So let's drag this all the way up and look at it. So this is done in Blender. And what we have going on here is the fact that we would like this geometry at any point in time that we're working with it, we can control the length. So if you like to control the length, you can also control the length of this. You can control the number of counts. If we can increase this to 14, we can play with the translation and do all of these things because, this is the attributes that we set in Blender, and this is just wild. So the question is, how do you make these things? Okay, so how do you make this, and how you can make it is extremely easy. First off, let's go ahead and get a brand new project and talk about this. So for you to get this started, you need to make sure that some things are in place. Create a brand new project. In this case, I'm just going to make a blank one. And, this is the place where my stuff is going to be saved. So I'm just going to make this GeoNode, all right? So that's the name of the project, GeoNodes. And I'm going to click on create. That makes sense, I guess. So once you click on create, we're just going to say, don't save any of this, and it's going to close. So once it closes, there are certain things you need to keep in mind. There is a plugin folder that comes with the downloaded project. Copy the plugins folder and then go over to where you have your file saved, which is the GeoNode. So go over to the GeoNodes project folder and then right click and paste. Paste that plugin here. You need to do this. It's very important, because if you don't do that and you go over to edit, go over to the plugins, you'll not be able to see that. And of course, if you also go over to edit, go over to the project settings and you scroll all the way down, you will not be able to see it. Okay, so you need to copy that into that folder. So once again, make sure that within the project folder you downloaded, you copy the plugins folder and paste it into the project folder that you're just creating. So in this case, we're doing the geometry nodes here, and we would have it right there. So once we have it there, we'll go over to edit, go over to the plugins, and what we need to do is just type in the word alter and we would see it. Click on enable, say yes to that, restart your Unreal Engine, and once it is restarted, go over to edit, go over to the project setting, and once you have that there, scroll all the way down, go over to plugins, go over to AlterMesh, and then locate your Blender executable file. So once that is ready, click on open and get that open. And once you have this ready, close that, and that is what you have. So it's a pretty easy thing to work with. And so let's go ahead and do a simple test. So we have a simple scene here in Blender. Let's jump over to geometry node. So shout out to Erindale, because there's something that he has here. So I'll go over to Erindale kit and let's see what we can get from Erindale right now. I think it's a brick. It's a straight brick, I guess. That looks like a wall. So I'm just going to drop that there and connect it right here. So for those who haven't tried out or seen Erindale's, utility kit or toolkit, I'm going to put a link in the description that can bring you over there where you can check it out. So once you have this ready, you can now play with the length of the wall. And of course, you can play with the height of the wall. So this is what we have. For us to get this over to Unreal Engine, what we need to do is to make sure that we have a geometry input. It is also very important that you have that. Else, once you save this file, it's going to just simply come in as that. So go over to where you have your geometry input. If you don't have that, hit Shift and A on the keyboard, go over to search and type in the word group input, and that way you'll be able to have it. So once you have this ready, I'm just going to link the wall length and also the wall height. Click here if you want to get rid of that geometry. Make sure you click right over there, go over to the group, select the geometry right there and take it out. So once we have this ready, I can go over to file and save this as wall. So let's just save this as wall, click on save and save it. So now that we've saved it as wall, let's go back to Unreal Engine, and then I'm just going to go ahead and click, drag and drop this right in. And that is how easy. Click, drag and drop, and you have it within your viewport. So you see how easy it is. So you now have that geometry node in here, and you can go ahead and play with the parameters that you set. So we have this parameter right here. That's a whole lot of wall. So I'm just going to make it 10, and I can also play with the height, and you can have it. And you probably noticed that right within Blender, if I go over to file and go over here where we have open recent, I just made a geometry table, which I would like to explain to you guys as well. So what we have here is a simple table actually. So it's a simple table that we made, and I will also put this on Gumroad, so in case you like to grab it, maybe I'll use it to update the previous table. So just in case you want to grab it, you can grab it. So what happens here is we have a node here, which is the grid, and the grid actually controls the position of this leg. So with this grid hot wired over to this part, you can notice that we saved it as the leg X and the leg Y, which actually plays with the position, or position of the legs within the x-axis and also within the y-axis. And of course, we also have another part, which is the cube, and then we have this other one that is here, added the subdivision for good measures. And what else do we have? We have the boolean. So we have the boolean so that the legs doesn't pass through to this part. And we had a simple reverse right here. So all of the things are happening down here. And of course, we did add a very simple scale. So that is more like a global scale that controls table. So in case you like to make the table stretch or maybe collapse, or you like to make it go up and down, you have this global scale that controls all of that. So with this, we are also going to go ahead and experiment with this one and see what it looks like here in Unreal Engine. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag in the geometry table, drag and drop it right in, click, drag and drop, and you would see that we have it. And once we have it right in here, I can go in and scale this down. All right, so it's snapping. We don't want that to snap, so we're just going to go ahead and turn off that snapping so we can have a much more smoother looking stuff. And all of that parameters that we have in Blender, you can see all the parameters coming through to this point. So let's just move this a little bit upwards. So if we like to play with the length of the legs, we can do that. So we can get the length of the leg up to this point. Let's just go ahead and turn off all of this snapping. All right, so we can, you know, get this all the way there. If we like to subdivide the top, we can subdivide the top. If we also like to subdivide the legs, we can also do that. You'll also notice that we have the global value here. So every single thing just simply pulls through. And of course, if you like to add materials to this, you can also do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this material and drop it right onto this mesh, double click, and we can start doing stuff. So let's get a constant, and we need a constant 3 vector, and I'm just going to connect these over here, and then we can just go ahead and look at some colors that might look nice. So let's just get something more like a shade like that. Click on OK to have that, and then we can just hotwire that into roughness, maybe. Right, so we can hotwire that into roughness, save that, and see what we can get. So once we have this ready, we can now click and drag, and you can see that there. And of course, you can also choose to make multiple copies. And now that we have multiple copies here, we can now go ahead and do some more fun stuff. So one more thing that is also pretty interesting to note about this is once you make changes, at any point in time you make changes to your model, you can always just double click right here and click on re-import. So if, for example, we do something extraordinary in Blender, maybe we make some changes that is affecting the geometry node, you need to click on re-import every time to get this thing updated here. It is worth knowing that that is one of the coolest way of updating your geometry nodes directly in Unreal Engine once you've made changes in Blender. So with that said, let's go over to Blender and talk about curves. So how do you bring in curves from your geometry nodes over to Unreal Engine? The developer has actually done an amazing job by fixing that, and it is pretty impressive to see. So for you to get that happening, what you need to do is let's just throw in a simple Bezier curve there. I'm just going to move this over to this point. What do we know? And would also proceed to make what can we make right now? Okay, so let's do everything in geometry nodes except this. So I'm just going to go ahead and select this now and jump over, and just jump over to geometry node and unlink this, because we don't want that. Actually, what we should do is we should throw in a mesh line. So I'm just going to go in and throw a mesh line in and get rid of this, because that was originally the idea. And shout out to Erin there one more time. This dude just comes through. I'm just going to go in and put a pipe, because we want to make a pipe. For those who are looking for faster ways of making pipe, check out his stuff. It's pretty nice. So we can have this here, and I can increase the resolution. And the next thing which we can do is we can drag in this Bezier curve, because we would like to use it as what will drive the curves. Okay, that's what we want. Next thing which we're going to do is we will do a instance on points. So we'll like several instances to be on a given point. So I'm just going to drop that there. We will like this to be the instance, and we'll like this to be the point. Now you can see, because we only have 2 points on our stuff, we are just having that. But if you like to push the limits of things that you can get, you can also do some more stuff. So we can go in here and we can throw in a resample curve, which just simply resamples the curve like it says. And we can play with these things and get smaller, bigger, depending on what you want to do. Next thing which we can do is go over here, and we would like to link this bad boy up. Okay, so let's just link it up right here, select that, and we can tap N on the keyboard, go over to the group, select geometry. We don't need that, delete that. So that goes away, and then we can expose this value as well, connect this here so that we can control this at any point in time, which is pretty interesting as well. And then if you like your rotation to be pretty decent every single time, at this point you might need to have an align. Okay, the align Euler vector is a very nice one, so I'm just going to connect that. And then since we're dealing with curve, this should have a curve tangent, and that is just pretty it. I mean, with this everything is done, and the next thing you need to do is save this amazing piece of artwork that you've made and send it over to Unreal Engine. Now, before we actually do that, there is also something I'd like to clean up. I don't like the idea that this is too tall, so we might just bring this down, and I think we should expose this value as well. I'm just going to expose this value, and let's call that pole length. Okay, so we just want to call this the pole length, and I'm also going to have this one selected, and I can call this copy count. Okay, that is copy count. And that is what we have. Okay, this is pretty nice. It's simple, very easy to work with, and I'm just going to let that be the way it is. Hit the save button and call this curves. Okay, so we have that as curves. Save this bad boy, jump over to Unreal Engine, click on the curves, and I love the idea of drag and drop, and then we have that drag and dropped in. Click and you have it. Now, one thing which you would notice if you're working with curves for the first time is it just comes in like this. Okay, it comes in like this. You actually don't know what to do with it. So how to fix it is pretty simple. You need to double click on the curve right here where we can re-import this stuff. You need to go over to where you have your mesh parameter and change this to spline. Instead of having it as an asset, change it to spline, save and close. And then you need to make sure that this, which is within the viewport, you also change it to spline. So once you change this to spline, let's give Unreal Engine some time to cook this so that it looks nice. So I'm just going to have this ready at any point. All right, so now that we have this here, what we can do is we can double click, and you would notice that we have the curves. And if you hold down Alt on the keyboard and you click and drag like so, you can start making curves. So this way you can start making all these curves, and you can make this curve right here. And you know what we did earlier? Copy count. We can increase the number of counts. And this is just brilliant. I love it. So we can also go over here and we can move these over to this point and over to this point. And yeah, this way, you can start doing some magic. All right. So I can also move this, into a position like so. And I can select this one and I can, just look at it and move it over to a position like that. And we can use the Bezier handles to control how we want this to look or how we want this to be. Have that there as well. Click, and I can just click on this handle and we can tighten that part. And you see, it's just impressive. So Houdini engine, better be scared, because this tool is now available. So with something like this, you can start doing stuff. And like we mentioned, if you would like to update this at any point in time, you can always update it. So if I go over to Blender at this point, because I remember that there is something we are supposed to add up, which deals with resolution. So I can load in this resolution and also load in the radius. And if you like to move these things up and down, you can always select and move it up, and you can change the name, however you want. So once we have this ready, click on File, Save, go over, and then what we have here, double click and re-import. Okay, so once we re-import it, it says re-import successful. Because we've re-imported it, we'll need to redo the entire thing again. And this is just one of those downsides that I think that should be fixed. The idea that once you re-import this, you might have to go back and click drag and drop and start doing this all over again is just one of those things that I think that the developer should actually work on. But despite this, the whole tool looks great. It is amazing, the kind of things that you can now do with it. And for sure, if you're thinking about getting into this, you'd like to check it out, you can simply go over to the Gumroad where you can download this for free and start doing some amazing things. Unreal Engine is free, Blender is free, this add-on is free, and you can start playing with it. And for those who like to see the roadmap, you can also go over to their Trello where you can see some of the stuff they're working on right now. And this is incredible. Some milestones are there. They're looking at physics cables. They're looking at cobwebs. Some very interesting stuff. and you might want to follow up with them. So this is more like it. For those who would like to check this out, link to this is going to be in the description, and of course link to their website is also going to be in the description, so do well to check it out. AlterMesh is here, amazing tool you can use to bring your geometry nodes into Unreal Engine and tweak it to your hard content, and it is pretty impressive. Tell me what you guys think about this one in the comment section, and of course if you like this video or you learned something from this, you can go ahead and give a like, and don't forget to share with a friend. And until I see you guys in the next one, peace.